You're on record.
I'm on record, okay. The meeting of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Planning Board for Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 7:30 PM. Announcement is made that adequate notice of this meeting has been given, that is being conducted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 et sec of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Diddy.
Here.
Mr. DiPiero.
Here.
Mr. Mealy.
Here.
Mr. Napolitano.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Ms. Smith. Here. Chairman Dinsmore.
Here.
We have a board planner, Ms. Winter, our board engineer, Mr. Canjiano, and our board attorney, Ms. Steinley.
All right, if we could do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this meeting is open to the general public. Is there anyone here who has something that is not on our agenda that would like to speak to us tonight? Hearing and seeing none. I'm not aware of any resolutions that we have to do, so that brings us right to our agenda. Application number 24:529, T-Mobile, 1269 Route 46, Lot 729, Lot 6.01, Zone 03, minor site plan with C variance to construct a temporary monopole with antennas and electric service.
Good evening, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Jennifer Canerick from Parsippany-Troy and Germany on behalf of the applicant T-Mobile. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
if you could speak.
Is it all right if I sit?
It's most important for you
Okay.
to,
Yeah, I think if I sit,
Nora.
I'm closer to the microphone.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just there are technical issues. This is for 24:529. Some of the plans we have here are for 23:533. And then you go further along and it's 24:529 again. Just want to make sure everything is the same.
That was the prior application for the same property. It was from earlier this year. It was application number 23:533, but it's the same property.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of what you're going to hear from the board members that were here back in April is going to be the same testimony, because we're just relocating the tower from one corner of the property to the other. But understanding we got to put our proofs on, and we're happy to do that this evening. So I'll do a brief introduction and get our witnesses on, so we can all get home and get warm, because it's very cold out today. So T-Mobile has an existing approved and operating wireless facility at the existing building, which is now demoed at 1269 Route 46. T-Mobile is proposing to deploy a temporary facility at the subject property. The proposed facility includes a 49-foot monopole, installation of 9 temporary antennas on the temporary pole, and to extend temporary electric service to the equipment being installed. It should be noted that T-Mobile received approval way back in December of 1997, specifically to install 3 roof-mounted antennas and an accessory equipment cabinet at the top of the existing building. Now that the building's demolished, and as a result, we're seeking approval to operate a temporary facility. It should also be noted that we recently obtained approval for a temporary facility back in March of 2024. We're now seeking to relocate that facility on the site. We're seeking, in terms of variance relief this evening, minor site plan approval to permit the temporary tower in the O3 zone. Other associated variance relief required, and as noted per your board planner's report, is minimum front yard setback, where 75 feet is the minimum permitted and 27.1 is proposed. We also have minimum side yard setback, where 75 is minimum permitted and 35.3 is proposed. And finally, the location of the facility proposed in the front yard, where only permitted in the rear and back yard. It is respectfully submitted that the location chosen for the temp facility is particularly suited, and my planner will testify to that, given the fact that it is adjacent to the what was the existing tower that is being replaced. It allowed T-Mobile to use its existing equipment that's currently there, and it's far removed from any residential properties located in an office zone. And as my RF will testify, the height of the temporary tower is required to provide reasonably comparable service during the duration of construction and redevelopment of the site. I have 3 witnesses with me this evening: Mr. Josh Cottrell of French and Perillo Associates, who will be testifying in his capacity as a professional engineer. I have Daniel Check of PureCon Solutions, who will be testifying in his capacity as an RF engineer. And lastly, I have Matt Flynn of John McDonough Associates, who will be testifying in his capacity as a planner. I did receive just want to make sure there's no other reports. ARH Associated Planners reports from October and most recently November 15th, and also the GPI Engineers Report dated October 29th, 2024. I don't believe there are any other reports. I just want to confirm that. Okay. We did file an exemption request from the Middlesex County Planning Department. We had one from the last approval. However, we're still awaiting receipt of same, so that's still pending. If there's no other items to be addressed, I can bring up my first witness.
We have some waivers, so.
Just go through
Sorry.
those quickly.
Got ahead of myself.
So you already mentioned the Morris County Planning Board approval. And most of these are related to the limited area of the plan, and we take no objection. So for the scale of the map, that it contains no more than 50 feet to an inch. Contours, proposed spot elevations, existing proposed utility services, including septic systems, existing proposed site illumination, location description of existing proposed landscaping, again, the scale, and contours, and utility services again. As long as there's testimony provided related to any changes
Sure.
to the prior approvals, we take no issue with any of those.
Okay, so we've got a number of waivers requested that are outlined in the ARH report. What's the date on this?
November 15th.
November 15th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. DiPiero, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Napolitano, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor?
Great, thank you very much.
Can I ask a question first before we start? As I recall, was there the intention of when the new building, that golf building, goes up, you're gonna move back to a structure there?
Well, a structure within the vicinity of the property. We don't have a signed lease
You
with
don't have a signed lease?
Topgolf.
Your intent is to go to one of those buildings that are gonna be built?
Well, within the vicinity. Might not be on the subject property, but we do need to get a permanent site eventually back up.
Yeah,
This is just to fill the gap for now while we
Right.
look for that.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Actually, my first witness is going to be Daniel Check on for RF testimony. And he has a couple exhibits that were not submitted with the application, so I think we need to mark those in. Yeah, I'm gonna first swear you in.
You wanna move that a little further back so they can see it? No, they can't see it.
I think we can see enough.
All right, if you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
My name is Daniel Check, last name Czech.
You need to speak into the microphone.
Daniel Check, last name Czech. Address is 10 Park Place, Building 6C in Butler, New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Check. Will you please provide the board with the benefit of your qualifications and experience for the record?
Yes, so I have a bachelor's degree in engineering from NJIT with an emphasis on communication systems. I'm experienced running propagation analysis for wireless carriers. I've calculated several RF emissions for FCC compliance, and I have over a dozen certifications in RF training, and I've been accepted as an expert before the board of Piscataway, Woodbridge, and Plainfield.
At this point, I'd like to qualify him.
Any questions on the qualifications of the witness? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor?
Great, thank you very much. Okay, you may proceed.
So we provided an EMF report dated October 8th, 2024. I'm not sure if that was marked in as exhibit, but in this analysis, we had compiled with FCC standards, and these FCC standards are a conservative nature of standards and the New Jersey Radiation Protection Act standard. And the methodology we use for our analysis is,
Should I shut that?
worst case.
And we can
And-
shut the door so that the sound of the waxing of the floors. Thank you.
And I don't have a copy of the report, so if you could just describe it, and then we can mark it as Exhibit A1.
Sure. The main purpose of the report was the calculations that are, entailed inside of it, but these pertain to the FCC standards and the New Jersey Radiation Protection Act standards, and the way that we conduct our test is we use the worst case, and this assumes that all antennas are on, actively transmitting, and that there is no cable loss, which gives you the worst possible case in RF emissions. And our analysis reported that the T-Mobile facility would emit 15.78% of the FCC allowable limit, that is 6.3 times below the limit, and 3.16% of the New Jersey maximum permissible exposure limit, and that's 31.7 times below the limit. So this confirmed that the site, it will be well below any emissions limits.
Okay, thank you very much. And you prepared some exhibits for this evening?
Yes, I have.
Could you just briefly describe them? And I think we're going to mark those in.
Yeah, so the report is just an EMF report dated October 8th, 2024, is that correct?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
prepared by your office?
Yes.
That's PureCon Solutions?
Pure Solutions.
Correct.
Okay, and
I
then
can
the
get
next...
you a copy of that.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll do Exhibit A2.
So there's 3 slides.
Just take the microphone.
Sorry. So there's three slides that I have here. So A2 for the first one. And in this first slide, we have, it's titled T-Mobile's existing LTE 2100 megahertz coverage. And we can see in dark blue circles, we have T-Mobile's existing on-air sites. And in the center of the map, we have the site in question, the site that is coming off air, that is NJ 060496, sorry, 06049C, and this site is coming off air, but we can see that coverage is shown on this map in a green cue, and coverage areas depict in-building service. As we can see, this site provides coverage along US 46 and I-80, as well as commercial buildings, as well as residential buildings in this area. And then if we move on to the next slide.
That'll be A3.
So this slide is titled T-Mobile's existing LTE 2100 megahertz coverage without NJ 06049C. And as you can see, the site is no longer present in the center of the map. And we can see that there is a reduction in coverage shown here along US 46, I-80, as well as some residential buildings that are located there. And now moving on to the third slide.
That'll be A4. Yep.
Here we have the slide titled T-Mobile's existing LTE 2100 megahertz coverage with NJCLT 89. This is T-Mobile's name for the temporary site that they plan to, that they were proposing. And we can see that this site is shown with a pink dot on the center of the map. And we can see that coverage is now once again restored to this area, providing an adequate replacement site for the previous existing site, showing that this site will indeed provide the same coverage, if not better, than what was previously existing.
Thank you, Mr. Checker. Just a few follow-up questions. The height of the tower proposed is 49 feet, and that's the minimum that we would require in order to meet the coverage needs that are currently existing now, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And the facility will help provide reliable coverage during the redevelopment of the site.
That is correct.
And lastly, we have no concerns for interference with other electronics in the area. We operate at licensed frequency, correct?
That is correct. T-Mobile is licensed.
Thank you very much. I have nothing further of this witness.
The members of the board that have any questions? Andrew, do you have anything?
Is the height the same as the height as the existing one that was the existing temporary one that's in service now?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Proposed at 49, and this one's at 49 too.
Yep, thanks.
The antenna center lines are at 45 feet on these sites, yes.
Michael, you had a question?
Yeah, this new site, I'm not familiar with it. There's no residential in that area, is there? It's all commercial?
It's in an office zone, so that's correct for the most part.
I believe there was some residential areas off of 46.
That are captured with that.
Yes,
site.
I don't believe there are a large sum of homes that would be affected by this site, but I believe.
What are we talking in terms of the?
It's
The
the
feet.
same site, it's the same lot as before.
Same lot, just a different
It's on the
location.
west
It's a different
side.
location.
Instead of the,
Same
if
side.
you're looking at it, if you're looking at the plan, instead of the left corner, it's now proposed in the right corner.
Okay.
Same lot as before.
All right, thank you.
Other members of the board have questions?
I do.
Mr.
Thank you.
Napolitano.
Just want to double check. These are just radio waves that are being given off by this tower?
Yes.
All right, because it seems like that's going to be about the same height as the third level of a Topgolf will be, just making sure there's no danger to anyone that's in Topgolf whenever that opens up. Whether or not that's your permanent site or not, just want to know.
Yeah, so, not sure, as I haven't done those calculations to, verify that they will be safe, depending on the distance between the site and.
Yeah, it looks like that with your site that's there, and if Topgolf was to be in that direction, that's where the restaurant area and players would be. And Route 46 would be the end. So that's where all the people would be. Just want to be, again, I don't know their exact height of Topgolf. I'm going to say the third level is probably 50 feet up. They are quite high.
Yeah.
And I mean, people are gathering there and, eating and playing. And if this thing's sending off radio waves, just want to make sure it's safe for them.
I'm not sure if this site is planned to be still on
That's what I'm
air,
saying, if
but
it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe that there will hopefully be a permanent location,
Okay.
so, before this site.
Towards the other end.
Yeah.
Mr. Canjiano?
Yeah, this may be for the attorney. So is this witness going to answer our engineering comment number 7 regarding duration and timing of this temporary facility?
That'll
or is
be
that
my
your
engineer.
next witness?
Yeah, that would be the Josh, the next witness.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
He testified previously on the last one regarding the duration.
All right, other members of the board? Members of the public have any questions of this witness on this testimony at this time? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor?
Okay, great, thank you very much. My next witness is Mr. Joshua Cottrell from FPA Associates.
Those are much more fun with the clear cells rather than we just throw the new coverage over the old coverage.
Yeah.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Sure. It's Joshua Cottrell, Cottrell, 1800 Route 34, Wall, New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. Will you please provide the board with the benefit of your qualifications and experience, keeping in mind that you testified back in April?
Sure. I hold a valid professional engineering license in the state of New Jersey, testified in numerous boards, including this one back in April.
And your license is still in good standing?
It is, yes.
All right. At this point, I'd like to qualify him, if that's okay.
Are there any questions on the witnesses' qualifications? Hearing and seeing none.
Okay.
Counselor?
Thank you very much. Go on.
Okay, I'm just going to reference plans that were submitted to the board as part of the application. They were last revised October 4th, 2024. I'm just going to flip to the second page in the sheet, which is the proposed site plan under current conditions. And these are actually a little bit out of date. Currently, previously there were 4 buildings on the property. They were all set to be demolished. The 2 buildings to the south along Route 80 have been demolished. The building on the west part along 46 is mostly demolished. There's still a portion of the building there. And the other office building along 46 is gutted, shelled, but it still stands as it holds the current T-Mobile antennas on top, and that's still on air. We were previously granted approval for a temporary site at the southeast corner of the property, of the tract, I should say, because it consists of 2 properties, along Route 80. We are now proposing to put the temporary site on the other side, to the west, still along Route 80, and in back of the property. And that's because of the development of the Top Golf site. I believe there's a stormwater management basin going in on this corner, so we had to move it over to the other corner so we did not interfere with the Top Golf development. If I flip to the next sheet, which is SP 1B, that shows the site with the Top Golf substantially completed or completed. As you can see, we're proposing it in where the proposed corner of the parking lot for the Top Golf facility will be. This, again, area was selected by the Top Golf developers as it will not interfere with their construction. I'm just going to jump to sheet SP4, which is the elevation page. So what T-Mobile is proposing is a ballast frame that sits on the grade, and it's basically large concrete blocks that provide weight that supports a 49-foot tall monopole structure, steel structure. On top of the monopole, T-Mobile installed their 9 antennas at a centerline elevation of 45, with the top elevation at 49 feet above grade. At the base of the tower, they'll install the equipment cabinets on top of the concrete blocks, and then they'll enclose the entire thing with a chain link fence. The only utilities that T-Mobile will need is electric, and we are proposing to extend that up through the northwestern property line with temporary utility poles from Route 46. That is actually shown on the site plans sheet. So from Route 46 all the way back to the western property line, back to the site on temporary utility poles.
Josh, can you just go through the 3 variances that are required, just the front yard, side, and location?
Sure. So if I just flip to sheet SP2A. So again, Route 80 is along the top, going left to right along the top of the page. Our setback to the Route 80 frontage is 27.1 feet. From the fenced facility to the right-of-way, I believe, I don't have the report from me. I believe it was 1.5 times the height of the tower that's required?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we obviously don't meet that. Same thing with the side property line. We have about 35.3 feet to the side property line. So we're requesting a variance for that. And the third variance was, what for, Jennifer?
A front yard, minimum side yard, and location in the front yard, rather
Oh,
than the rear.
and obviously,
Fence height,
No, we meet the fence height requirements.
6 foot?
Yep.
The plan says 6 foot 2 inches.
We can
We'll drop that
accommodate
down.
that, yes.
So the last one, I think, got a fence height variance. think
I
we
didn't
will
see
do.
that in the prior resolution. Do you
I don't remember
I
that.
just want to make sure when I go to get the permit, is that the right?
Yeah, what happens, the temporary fences, they sit on a base shoe.
Yeah,
They're not permanently into the ground, and that
Okay.
kind of raises it 2 more inches. But we can modify the fence post so that it stays at the 6-foot elevation.
That's fine.
As far as maintenance and visits, cell technician visits the site once every 4 to 6 weeks, just for routine maintenance. Obviously, during construction, they're going to want to get as close to the tower as they can without interfering with the ongoing construction and maintaining their own safety. So the parking spot during construction might vary as the construction goes on, different stages. Once the parking lot is substantially completed, then they'll just use the parking lot for the Topgolf to park. And again, that's only once every 4 to 6 weeks.
there was a question raised by the engineer regarding duration that we would need the temporary tower up for.
If I could just chime in. So, just to be clear, just make sure the board understands how this differs in variances, in height, and location from what was approved back in April. And what was improved in April, has that been installed and is that up and running?
So what was improved? There's no changes to the actual physical structures between the approved application and what we're asking for today. It's the same setup, the same tower, the same antennas, the same equipment. The only difference is it's moved over a few hundred feet to the other property corner. The approved tower has not been installed. The existing site is still on the building up in front by Route
Oh,
46.
okay. I wasn't clear on that.
Yes, and they're waiting, well, I'm assuming they're waiting for this to get approved and installed before they can demolish that building.
You've answered another question.
To continue the coverage.
Yes.
Yeah. So the service, the T-Mobile service that's in the existing building that's slated to be demolished, once this one is up, that building and that T-Mobile facility that's in the existing building will be taken out of service? Is that the game plan?
That'll be taken out of service, whether it's the same day that they put this one in service or not, that changes. But the idea is to use the same equipment for the temporary. They'll just move it over, hopefully in the same day. If they don't think they can do it in the same day, they'll probably just bring in new equipment. And once that's on air, they'll take down the old equipment from the building.
Can you show this board the blow-up version of the site plan where your improvements are going on this site? I think that may be helpful. Is that the sheet that's up there right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's in the rear of the parking lot. No, that's the existing condition. Show under the proposed condition because the Topgolf application, they're currently building Topgolf now, I guess, they're under that.
Right.
So this is what it looks like. It's in the rear of the parking lot there, and it's taking up 1, 2, 3, how many parking spaces? Is it taking?
Well, it's taking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because this one won't be accessible. So 5, we can probably adjust that, so we can limit it to 4.
And is it intended to be taken out of service before Topgolf is fully operational? Or is it intended to stay in service for some period of time while Topgolf is fully open? Because it comes to a question of parking.
Well, I'm not familiar with the terms of the lease they have with Topgolf, but ideally, this will be gone before Topgolf opens, but I can't.
Because if it's not gone, then you'll be blocking the parking spaces. And I
Yes.
would suggest you need relief for those parking spaces since they won't be available, at least temporarily until this is.
Yeah, I went through the prior approvals for the Topgolf, and I know in your report you noted that it was 366 spaces where 369 were provided, so they were just above what was required in terms of parking. But I saw it in another resolution for the Topgolf, because it was bifurcated application, that they were proposing 385 spaces. So in that case,
If you, I guess my point is, if you're going to be reducing the parking spaces below was
Approved.
required and approved, then you should be asking for the relief for those couple of spaces.
What is the time period that you're requesting for the temporary location? What is you requesting the board for? How long? How long is temporary, basically?
well, that was a question last time that the board had, and I believe you wanted us back, within 6 months to say whether we have permanent or whether we're filing an application for a permanent. As soon as we get a permanent location, we want to be before the board and get this down, as soon as we can, so as not to interfere with the Topgolf operations. But unfortunately, if I could, make a lease appear, I would, but, it's not the easiest trying to get a permanent location in this area. We've been trying, though. It's not like we have a couple of potential landlords that are interested, and hopefully we can make it happen sooner rather than later.
And what was wrong with the other side? You said originally you planned it on the other side and you moved it a couple hundred feet. I guess that's towards the west.
Drainage or?
Yeah,
The stormwater.
there was a
Stormwater
stormwater
problem there.
management
Right.
facility in that corner over there that's being proposed.
We're trying to stay out of Topgolf's way, so
right.
that they can develop, their project while also keeping coverage for
Sure.
the users in the area.
Yeah, I see.
So do you know if you need relief? You have 360, or from this review of your prior application, if 366 were required, will you be below 366 taking these 3 spaces out? That's the question.
Well, from my understanding from the resolution, there was 385 proposed. So, we would be at 380, still well above the 366 that was required.
And how many parking? I see a note here, you're saying you have 365 proposed.
I believe it was 385 in the resolution.
Correct.
Yeah, 300, in the Topgolf resolution, it mentioned a proposed 385
So
spaces.
you're not going to be going down to 360, below the required 366 spaces?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if that is the case, if it does go below, then additional approvals will have to be
Of course,
sought.
yeah, we would have to seek an amendment. Understood.
All right, any other members of the board have questions on this testimony at this time? Do you have anything?
I'm just gonna ask about parking.
Okay.
I think, did we cover it?
You covered it.
Great.
Any members of the public have any questions on this testimony at this time? Hearing and seeing none, Counselor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My next and last witness is Matthew Flynn. Thanks.
If you please just raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Matthew Flynn, Flynn, business address is 101 Gibraltar Drive, Morris Plains, New Jersey.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Could you please provide the board with the benefit of your qualifications and experience for the record?
Yes, my education comes from Rutgers. I have my master's degree in planning and public policy. I have my professional planner's license in the state of New Jersey, as well as my national licensure, which is the AICP license. I have testified before this board in the past, as well as over 20 other boards in Morris County and several others across the state.
Then your license is still in good standing, correct?
Yes.
At this point, I'd like to qualify him.
Any members of the board have any questions on the qualifications of this witness? Hearing and seeing none, Counselor?
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Sure. So the exhibit that was just passed around
You
is...
gotta mark it.
Sure.
Was that A5, correct?
Yes.
And it's a 10-page, so will we do A5 as a 10-page exhibit, or do you want to do...
That's fine.
Sure. So Exhibit A5 is an exhibit prepared by TK Design Associates, and really the point of this is just to show the board what this proposed technology will look like from multiple different vantage points. I'll walk the board through it very quickly, and if the board has any questions, please feel free. So page 1 shows the view basically from next door on Route 46, showing we have this red arrow pointing to where the technology will be located. The next page shows a rendering of the technology once it would be installed. Important thing to note here is that we do have these much higher light fixtures associated with the ball fields. I think it's the Smith field next door there. So clearly not going to be overpowering in the sense that we do have light fixtures that extend much higher next door. Sheet 3 is now showing from the shopping center at Route 46, the Target Shopping Center. Again, we see that red arrow that points again to the proposed location. And then the next page, which is sheet 4, just shows again a rendering filling in that space with the technology. Again, here it's barely visible, and again, we do have much higher light fixtures on this property, so it's not going to stand out as being an anomaly in that sense. Flipping along to sheet 5, here we're on the bridge over Route 80 from South Beverwick Road. Here there's actually no visibility, so we actually don't see anything there. Sheet 6 is now looking from 236 Route 46, showing existing conditions, and if you squint your eyes a little bit, you can see that red balloon in the back over by that tree canopy in the back. And then the next page is sheet 6, which again fills that in with the rendering of the technology. Sheet 7, same deal. Now we're looking at Route 46 and West Summit Street. We see the balloon pointed at with that red arrow, and then sheet 8 fills that in with the rendering. And finally, the last page, if the board wants to, I guess, flip back and forth, we can see we have these numbered circles here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which correlates to those images that we just flipped through. So the board can get a better orientation as to where those photos were taken from. So with all that being said, if there's any questions, again, please feel free. By way of background, we are requesting 3 C variances with this application. In relation to the application for the previously approved fixtures or wireless technology, we actually eliminated 1 variance for the setback to the adjacent B1 zone. If we have adjacency to a different zone district than the one we're in, we need 300 feet of separation to that other zone. Here, we're now proposing 450 feet, whereas that other application actually had close to 40 feet. So from a planning sense, this is actually a more compatible application in that regard. Other than that, it's essentially the same relief that was proposed with the previous application. We're just flipping that technology over to the other side of the property, requesting the same front setback, side setback relief. So just to list that out now. To have this in the front yard is actually a variance. It's required to be in either the side or the rear yard. Here we are looking at a through lot that does have frontage on Route 80 and Route 46. So we do have a property that has 2 front yards, which does necessitate that variance. It is somewhat of a hardship in that sense. The next variance will be front setback to Route 80. We're proposing 27.1 feet, whereas 73.5 feet is required. Again, we do have those 2 front yards, so there is somewhat of a difficulty finding a compliant location in terms of front setback. In terms of side setback, again, it's the same variance that was required and approved previously, 35.3 feet, as opposed to 73.5 feet again. Again, we're just flipping that technology over to the other side, requesting the same exact variance, now for the other side. In terms of the negative criteria, I'll hit first. I think that we can see based on Exhibit A5 here that in terms of visibility, this is not going to stand out as being incompatible or otherwise obtrusive from an aesthetic standpoint. It is remote from residential. We are in the O3 zone. And I think council mentioned it, we do have a height of 49 feet, whereas 125 feet is permitted in this zone. So we are proposing something that's much lower than what would otherwise be permitted for this type of use here. And I think it might be useful to note that for principal buildings in the zone, up to 45 feet is permitted for height. So we're essentially just there for what would be permitted for a building, but again, much lower than what's permitted for this type of wireless technology. In terms of the project benefits or the positive criteria, we look to the municipal land use law, the purposes of zoning set forth therein. Purpose A, promotion of the general welfare. We heard from the expert before me that this is necessary for continued uninterrupted cell service, which is for the benefit of residences in the area. Purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations. Again, this is a use that has been previously approved at this property. Again, we're just talking about shifting it to the other side. Purpose I, desirable visual environment. Again, I'll fall back on Exhibit A5, showing that visibility. And finally, Purpose M, efficient use of land. I think in the grand scheme of things, this is a substantially compliant application. Again, we are looking at a project that has 2 front setbacks, which does, I think, result in these front setback variances. But again, this is a temporary structure, and I think, again, when we look at the visibility, this is not going to stand out as overdevelopment or anything like that we usually like to limit in these types of applications. So all said, I think this is an appropriate application, and I think we can look to the C2 balancing test. All those benefits that I just went through substantially outweigh any potential detriments. In this case, I believe there are no potential detriments, and I think the board has asked all the appropriate questions at this point, and I think there's no outstanding issues. So with that, unless there's any redirect, that's my testimony.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions. I generally agree with Mr. Flynn's analysis.
All right, are there members of the board that have any questions on this testimony?
I do, thank you.
Mr.
Now, it just rings a bell now, and I remember this project. And I was actually worried about it being closer to Smith Field. And I was happy where it was going. Now I know it's going this way. Is there any danger to any kids playing at Smith Field, being that it looks like 240 feet closer than where it was before? Should it be higher than the 49 feet?
Should it be higher?
Yeah, I'm just worried about the safety of the kids in the area playing, and that's all I'm worried about.
Understood. I guess I would have to fall back on.
Yeah, so as if it is compliant, so that we don't really see that there is a safety threat to anybody. Right, we're well below the limit for the FCC and the New Jersey limit, so that we don't see that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other members of the board? Any members of the public have any questions on the planner's testimony at this time? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor?
I could do a brief summation, if that's okay?
All right.
Or you want to just go to vote?
Normally, we ask for comments from the public if there are any comments, and then sometimes councilors reserve their summation for after the comments from the
I know
public.
there's nobody out there from the public, so.
Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this case at this time?
They're all from Topgolf, those guys back there.
Positively or negatively? Hearing and seeing none.
I'll be brief. You heard testimony from our engineer regarding site plan overall design. He addressed any concerns raised. You also heard testimony from our RF engineer confirming the need for the temporary installation due to the decommissioning of the wireless installation on the existing building. You also heard testimony, which was a concern raised by one of your board members regarding emissions from the facility being well within all state and federal standards, and that the site will operate well within the law for frequency exposure pursuant to FCC guidelines. Finally, you heard testimony from our planner regarding the positive benefits of improved wireless telecommunication service, and that this site is particularly suited for a wireless facility when there is already existing facility on site. We submit that we have met the statutory criteria for the granting of minor site plan approval with the associated variance relief for side yard setback, front yard setback, and location of the proposed facility in the front yard. and weighing the evidence presented in support of the application, and based on the proofs presented to the board, we would respectfully request approval of the application and ask the board grant approval for same as testified to throughout the hearing this evening.
Closes the evidentiary portion of tonight's hearing. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mealy. Getting my M friends mixed up.
a motion to approve application number 24:529, T-Mobile, 1269 Route 46, Block 729, lots 6.01, Zone O-3, minor site plan with C variance to construct a temporary monopole with antennas and electric service.
Second,
We've got a motion and a second, but there's some subject twos here that I want to make sure that,
Yes.
Just that the applicant will comply with the 6-foot height for fence requirement. The applicant will seek additional approvals for parking if needed. The applicant will comply with all FCC and New Jersey limits and permitting requirements for the facility, and will comply with any prior conditions of the previous application unless it's contradicted by this application.
They're gonna return in 6 months, I think. No?
Yeah, I think that was one of the
That was
prior.
one of the conditions.
One of the prior
approval.
conditions was that,
From the
that-
date of memorialization of this
yeah,
approval.
that you would come back,
6 months.
in 6 months, either with a permanent or a new location or updates about this temporary structure.
We're trying.
those were the conditions you put in
As stated by
there?
the board chairman, Mr. Chairman.
And the seconder agreed to that too? Okay, very good. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Didich?
Yes.
DePiero?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Napolitano?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Dinsmore?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Happy holidays.
All right.
We'll see you back in 6 months.
Is there anything else that needs to come back before this board at this time, or hearing and seeing none? Nora, you have nothing, eh?
Nothing.
I would like to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday.
Thank you.
Indeed. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And
Sorry?
is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Probably did, but
I have a second.
Second.
Anybody opposed?
Yeah.
No, I don't oppose. Three this week.
It was once explained to me by an RF engineer that if